It's time for a meta-analysis. The BCS season is finally underway, so let's go over some of the best decks right now. As always, if you still need any Vanguard cards, you can go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn for a discount. Set 12 is up right now for pre-order, as well as, of course, any other cards and accessories and so forth. So use the code Solemn for a discount. I will be going over Toronto from last week as well, because I didn't do a wrap-up for that just yet. You know, it was just one BCS. I wanted to have some more results. So we have Toronto, and then afterwards we have Chicago and Austria. So one Canadian event, one American event, and one European event. So for standard right here, Toronto top 4, we have the Gandiva, which is, you know, one of the fan favorites right now. We have Zorga, which is a bit more surprising. MLB, another Gandiva. So, you know, if you're following standard in any capacity, Gandiva and Willista are the two top dogs. And anything else, you kind of feel like, huh, weird. It's kind of like last format where the two top dogs were Jet and Eva, and anything else, you kind of felt like, huh, weird. Now, of course, some decks could sometimes beat these two decks as well. It's still standard. It's still gonna have, you know, some over-trigger shenanigans, sometimes some strong defensives and so forth. But it's pretty clear what the best decks are. Then if we check out the breakdown, we have triple Gandiva. Also, shout out to Fuzzy Paradox, of course, for these awesome graphics. One Willista, one Zorga, one Chronojet, one Hexa Orb, and one Majesty Lord. So this is quite the weird result overall. Half the pie chart only being taken by the two favorites. Of course, I'm a Zorga simp, so I'm happy to see this right here. But a Hexa Orb, wow. Then for Toronto top 4 Premium. Now, I will be the first to say I don't know what the hell happened in Toronto Premium. I will not stand for this. Look at this. When these results came out, people were going, whoa, Premium is looking so toxic. It's Gridora and Chaos being so good. And honestly, no. Just no. I saw these results. I was like, I don't know what Canada is doing. Sorry, you're gonna have to do better than that. These two decks, while solid, you know, somewhere in tier 1, I would definitely put them at the bottom in tier 1. I think there's like 6, 7, maybe 8 or even 9 decks in tier 1 in my opinion. The format is still very open, still developing. History Collection just came out. These decks are somewhere in tier 1, but God, if I had to rank them, they would be at the very bottom of that list. So right here we have two Gridoras, one in first, one in fourth. We have a Dimension Police, very scary deck. Broken G-Guard. I think one day that G-Guard might get a little slap. Not necessarily banned, but just the fact, oh my God, this is like ramp through it. But for now, the deck, you know, it's still bricky enough to where it's okay. But if this deck was ever consistent, like as consistent as Naru or something, yikes, this deck is crazy good. Then we have third place Chaos. Again, they're fine tier 1 decks, but the amount of representation, if you look at top 8, look at this. Triple Mega Colony, triple Link Joker, 1 DP, 1 Neo Nectar, and oh, one of them was Messiah. Okay, Messiah is a little different from Chaos. I'll give you that. That's a different deck. Chaos is like a Floodgate. Messiah is just, you know, multi-attack. Pretty good overall. But this, people were going crazy. People were going, wow, Premium is just gonna be Floodgates and so forth. And then we saw the results afterwards and everything changed. But still, of course, congratulations to everyone who qualified. Of course, early on in a season, you're gonna see a lot of very, very different decks doing well because everyone is still figuring stuff out. The two favorites, in my opinion, in this room, because they were just known for doing very well, Kevin Cho and Stephen Lee, picked some, in my opinion, questionable decks. Was a little inside running joke. I was like, damn, Stephen, are you sure you're gonna take your pick into a room full of Mega Colony? Are you sure? And he's like, nah, there won't be any Mega Colony. Well, there was Mega Colony, it turns out. But yeah, open format, lots of things can change. And you will see with the results we're about to see now that a lot of things already changed. Then for V Premium in Toronto, we had a very, very wide format. We have an Ange in first, a Gurgit in second. Oh, Sergio, congratulations. Third, we have Steam Maiden, still kicking. And then fourth, we have Leopold. My baby Leopold, it is a very strong deck whenever it has, you know, the correct ride and the correct lock. But when you don't, you feel so bad. But yeah, I do think all of these decks are solid, though I do have to say Steam Maiden. That is a bit of a underdog right now, I think. Then for top 8, again, very diverse. We have 2 Golds, 1 Bermuda, 1 Gear, 1 Great Nature, 1 Aqua, 1 Royal, 1 Naru. And if I look at these decks, except for maybe Sea Maiden, I can see all of it. You know, I think all of these decks have arguments for why you would want to take them to a BCS to try and qualify Worlds or something along those lines. Now, of course, the Sea Maiden player proved me wrong. They qualified Worlds this way. But overall, you know, if I was going to a BCS for V right now and you told me I'm going to play one of these decks, I would go, yep, it makes sense. Maybe Jewel Knights is like the least likely, I think, of those. But overall, still makes sense. Oh, and another thing I want to highlight about this particular chart, notice how there is no Millista. If you don't know what Millista is, it is a deck that card uses the Willista Overdress card to try and mill your opponent out so they deck out an auto lose. It is a very toxic deck when it works, but the when it works is the important part here. Everyone on Twitter, or a lot of people on Twitter, were hyping it up as the tier 0 threat that was gonna break premium, but the second I actually started testing that properly and read the cards properly, the deck turned out to just be ass. Sometimes it auto wins and you can't do anything about it, and often it does nothing because it gets stuck on grade 0, or it rides a heal guardian, or it gets stuck mid-loop, and then the deck just goes and it's over. So the deck right here, I think, got 9th place. Some people went like, oh, that means it's pretty good, but still that means it went X2, which is just not a topping record. Sometimes X2s do make it, that happens, but in general, if you don't get in with X2, you shouldn't be mad. You know, you didn't get unlucky. Most X2s do not make it. Now, next we have Austria right here. We have the top 4 for V Premium. We have a first place Tavas, a second place Valk, a third place Tavas. Hey, Maxime Solemn, that's crazy. This is my new baby girl right here. Isn't she pretty? So yeah, I'm going to Worlds for V, who would have thought, and then 4th place Ange. So this all makes sense. Valk is a very scary deck when it gets first and gets combo. It is a bit brickier because it's running those weird ratios, but whenever it doesn't get destroyed by its own ratios, or the opponent isn't the Protect deck, the deck is really, really good. If we look at the top 8 breakdown, we have 2 Aqua, 2 Luard, 1 Valk, 1 Ange, 1 Sharot, 1 Glendios. Very scary. I actually faced this Glendios player in top 8. That was the most stressful game of the day for sure. The player is very good, Anthony. He has been topping all over the place constantly. He often picks like these weird, slightly off-meta decks and does well with them. I actually had to message some friends going like, hey, how do I beat Glendios? Because I found out what top 8 was playing, you know, before top 8, and holy shit, this deck is just so scary. You have to play against it in a very, very weird way. You might think like, oh, I'll keep my front row empty and so forth to play around locking, but it turns out playing around Zirconium is way more useful, in my opinion at least. But that's the breakdown. Overall, everything here makes sense. Of course, some people might say Glendios is a little bit more off meta here, but everything else makes sense. Sharot can sometimes also be a bit bricky, but you know, just don't brick, right? Then the top 4 for standard, we have first place Chronojet. Now this is weird, along with 4th place also Chronojet, also pretty weird. So these are more unexpected. Obviously, this was the best deck for Springfest, so it's not like it's a bad deck or anything, but everyone assumes that the favorites right now are Willista and Gandiva, but they are sitting here at 2nd and 3rd place. Now, of course, again, all kinds of shit can go wrong. I would still pick Willista right now or Gandiva right now if I were going to a major event, but it's not like Chronojet or Eva are bad decks right now, obviously. And then if we look at the top 8 right here, we see triple Gandiva, 2 Willista, so this is kind of starting to look more like what the meta is actually like. 2 Chronojet though, which is a bit more surprising, and then 1 Zorga, the homie Zorga still pulling true. Next we had a premium right here for Austria, so we have first place Night Rose, solid deck. I will say Chris right here dodged all of the Gredoras like a ninja, so that is pretty important when you are playing Grand Blue, but when you do, it is a very strong deck still. Then we have second place Louis with Narukami. Naru is definitely one of the favorites here, and this is actually also the reason why my mind was so blown when we saw the Toronto results. In my testing, which admittedly at first was very little because I didn't have time, I was like, how can Gredora even be playable in a field where Naru is one of the top decks? Like, Gredora should just scoop. You can, like, they flip up the Naru starter and you just go, oh, I guess I have my lunch break right now. That is that matchup. The only way you're winning that is just 10 things going right for you and 10 things going wrong for your opponent if you are on Gredora and they're on Naru. So how can Gredora be a pick with Naru? So how did so many Gredoras do so well in Toronto? I was mind blown. But so then we see here Naru doing very well, and you will notice in more results later, again, and it's coming, Gredora kind of falling off for good reason. Now, is it bad? No, I still think it's a tier 1 deck. I just think it's nowhere near the top of tier 1. Then third place, we have Altmile Jewel Knight. Now, you might be surprised by this result, but I am not. And the reason is I played against this deck in a shop challenge. I think my opponent Stan was playing it. That deck is scary as fuck. Like, if they go first, they will rail your ass. And if they didn't rail your ass, they are able to Crystal Luster you for your life savings, so you can't give them too much time either. So this is a very scary deck. Now, is it the best deck? No. Is it part of the best 3 decks? I don't think so either. But I do think if it's like tier 2, it is one of the scariest tier 2 decks. It kind of feels in the same vein as Dimension Police to me, where you feel feel stressed to take it yourself because there's a couple things that can go wrong for you, but you feel very stressed to play against it as well because there's a lot of things that can go right for them. So that's kind of that type of deck to me. This and DP are just, I'm constantly scared of them, but I don't want to take them myself. So you do have to look out for this type of deck. And then fourth place, and this is where I'm like, just, I don't understand. Fourth place is Angel Gize. Now, of course, congrats to them. You will actually see in the top 8 right here that there was 2 fucking Angel Gize. I don't know what happened. The funniest thing was last round of Swiss, these 2 players were against each other, playing Gize against each other. And I think they like, the match was decided by deck out or something along those lines. Maybe I heard wrong. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened. Did they dodge certain things? I mean, the deck is not bad, I will say that. This deck is very defensive right now, heals a billion times. There's also a lot of new cards that make premium more defensive based so that they can survive better. There's also certain decks needing a lot of CB to really push well. So there's some arguments for why this type of deck is now better than before, but it's definitely nowhere near like the top of tier 1 or anything like that to me either. So this was very surprising to me. I couldn't believe my eyes when it happened, but it did happen. Again, right now, History Collection just came out. There's a bunch of things that can be solid. And then second to Link Joker. Again, I'm mind blown. I don't know what they faced. I don't understand. I still think that this type of deck together with Gridora type of decks, while they can hard counter certain decks, they do not hard counter enough things reliably to be like a safe pick. But here we are. Still, where is all the Gridora though? I will tell you, not here. Then we have a Grand Blue, again solid. We have a Naru, solid deck, the Jewel Knight Altmile, and we have Time Leap. Yeah, Dave, the world champion, was actually 9th, but then someone got DQ'd in deck check. It wasn't their fault. I don't want to get into the whole thing. I don't really know the specifics either. But then so from 9th he went to do 8th, but then he bricked later. So sad, but still Time Leap Chronojet. It's his favorite clan, so keep on going, I guess. And then we have the Rosemont results. So funnily enough, right here we also have Jet 1st and 4th. I don't know what is going on. Is Jet maybe underrated or I don't know. I really don't know. Second place MLB and third place the Willista, which is, you know, more so what we were expecting. Now then we have for the breakdown 3 Gandiva, 2 Chronojet, 1 Willista, 1 Messiah, 1 Majesty Lord. So again, nothing too surprising here. I mean, those 2 you might argue are a bit more surprising. And this doing so well is a little surprising. Obviously, again, it was the best deck previous format. But people were, I think, more so assuming that it was all Willista and Gandiva. But it turns out it isn't. Now for premium right here for Rosemont, we have first place NLK, the scariest deck ever. Again, kind of feels in that same boat as DP and Altmile Jewel Knight, where I'm scared of it, but I would not take it to an event myself because there's like too many odd loss conditions in the deck. But again, sometimes it is their day and they just rail your booty. Now second place, again, Naru, and third place, another Naru. This is definitely one of the favorites right now in the format, it seems. And again, Gridora, what the hell are you doing into this deck? You are going to get a burger, a really good burger though. You might have a great time eating that burger. Then fourth place, we have Steam Maiden actually. Steam Maiden still has 1 in Tirana, so if you draw that, or you of course can search into it with a variety of cards like Kurunta and so forth, it can still be very scary. Going into top 8 though, haha, 5 Narukami, yes. So where Canada first had 3 Gridora, and it turns out everyone's going, oh, Gridora so strong, wow, this is clearly the deck of the format, it needs to be bad. And I was going like, but what are you talking about? Like, one of the best decks just rails your ass. What are you doing? Turns out, you know, Chicago figured it out. Europe was also playing a lot of Narukami, and so Gridora was completely gate kept out of tops. Naru is one of the best decks, and so Gridora is just fucking out. It cannot do anything. Like, you can say cope and say like, oh, Dark Phase GB2 though. Yeah, okay. Try and Dark Phase GB2 Narukami. Good luck with that. So yeah, Naru completely annihilated. And also, one thing you want to check out here is, where is Melista? I will tell you, 10th place. X2, which is where Melista is consistently, because it just feels like an X2 deck, honestly. Now, is it toxic? Yes. Should it be banned? Yes. Is it like tier 0, this is the threat? I don't think so. It just loses to itself too often. Then we have 1 Gear Chronicle, 1 Dark Radiant, 1 OTT. OTT actually a bit of a sleeper, you know, can still be very scary, draws a bunch more now. Instantly as itchy, so you can't deny them their G-Guard by like not swinging and stuff like that, which was a little trick I love doing against OTT. No longer really does anything. So still solid. I would put it somewhere high in tier 2. But yeah, 5 Naru. That is big scary. Now I will say I do not think that this is a deck that can reliably be tier 0 or anything like that, because there are decks that can hard counter this too well. Like, you might think of fucking Riviere, which is obviously not a crazy deck, but the fact that if this deck is ever the best deck by a mile, anyone can just go call the Fry Girl and just go, your whole life ends right here. Very painful. There's also plenty of other cards that empty your bind zone, which at least makes your GB8 garbage, and at least makes your Stunverse and your Bulwarks not live. And then, of course, Regalia, making their life a living hell. There's like enough to, I think, make this deck not oppressive enough, but at the same time, I do understand that Sweep plus Exterminate is like a really ridiculous combo. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too concerned just yet, but this is a very strong deck, of course, to watch out for. But mostly, I'm very happy that it just eats Gridora's ass. I do not think you can confidently take Gridora right now with so many people, you know, bringing Narukami, because it is one of the top picks. And then Rosemont V Premium, we had Nitros Luard, love to see it. And top 8 is 4 Luard, 2 Nitros, 1 Genesis, and 1 Great Nature Hamsters. Yeah, I don't know what Rosemont is doing right here, but I dig it. You know, I like Shadows, I like Grand Blue, and I like Great Nature. Fenrir, you're hot, you can stay. So this is a very nice pie chart. It is kind of like a crack pipe type of pie chart, though. I'm very confused by what is going on here, but I dig it. So that is all for today. I hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you still need any Vanguard cards, go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn for a discount. I will see you soon. Ciao.